for the 1 year on my birthday. And this had to be after the war started too. So it had probably in 41, early 41. Or no, it had to have been more like the end of 41 or early 42, because the war had started in December 41, I believe. Anyway, I used to stop at this bakery all the time. There was this lady in there, and I used to just stop and talk to her on the way home from school. And I had been in the first grade. Let's see, 41. Yeah, I would have been 7 years old. I had to be in the first or second grade. Anyway, I used to stop and talk to her all the time. And for my birthday, she bought me a truck and gave it to me. And I'll never forget how excited I was to get a present from her. That's the first present I ever got for a birthday that I could remember. My mom, as near as I can remember, she was pretty good to us most of the time. But she had to work all the time too. And of course back then you didn't make a lot of money, but it didn't cost a lot of money. I can remember going to the grocery store with this little wagon I was talking about that I fell into. And for $5 we'd have 8 or 9 bags of groceries in that thing and pull it home. At the Kroger's and the A&P we always went to. So you could get a lot of groceries for $5. And of course I had no idea of rent or anything. But I do remember her saying, well, I got $5, we can go to the grocery store. And I thought, gee, we were rich, we had $5. But she'd buy canned milk and stuff, and then we'd mix it with water for our cereal when we could afford cereal. Times were tough. We didn't have a whole lot. We got most of our clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army and places like that.
Would you say your mom was a happy person?
I don't know. She was extremely strict, very, very strict with us, and I don't know what brought that on, but she was very strict with us. I remember being sent to her dad's place. He lived in the country outside of Cincinnati at a farm in Amelia, Ohio. And he had a tobacco farm. He grew tobacco leaf. And he used to, I remember him when harvest time come, cutting them, tying them together and putting them on poles and hanging them in the barn to dry. And then the tobacco companies would all come out and bid on the tobacco leaves. And he was pretty mean too. She had a brother that lived just a few miles from there, and he had a couple kids, and when they come over and we'd play, my grandpa would always favor them against me, and it made me very resentful, because if something would happen and one of them would start crying or get hurt when we were playing, I got the blame for hurting them, and that used to, it really made me resentful of him. But he was, and my grandma, which is, now this is my mother's mom and dad, and I don't remember their names, but now she was pretty good. She was pretty good. We grew most of our own food, our own potatoes and tomatoes and stuff, and dug them, and at harvest time, you know, store stuff. We had our own chickens, and I used to go out and gather the eggs.
Now you guys, your whole family moved in and lived with your grandparents?
No, just me at this time. I don't know where my brother and sister were at that time.
Was your mom living there with you?
No. No, she came to visit about once every 2 or 3 weeks. And I remember, and once in a while she'd bring my brother and sister with her. And I know there was a big steep hill with steps on it that you had to go down to get to the road. There was no sidewalks, and it was a dirt road. And I remember one time she pulled up, and I went running out because I thought my brother and sister would be there. And I said, "Where's Jimmy and Dorothy?" That was my brother and sister's name. And she said, "Oh, I didn't bring them." And I said, "Well, I'll be a son of a bitch." And, oh man, you talk about getting a whipping. I got a whipping from her, and I got a whipping from my grandpa, both. So I learned at that point in time that kids don't cuss, unless, or not around adults anyway. After I left my grandpa's, I went to my mom's sister, her Aunt Nellie, in Amelia. And me and my sister both were with them. And I don't know where my brother was at this time, but me and my sister both went to live with her. And this is just a little farm town. I mean, there's probably 12 houses in the whole town and a school. And they, down the road lived this old lady. I mean, she was old. She couldn't hardly take care of herself. So my Aunt Nellie and my mom decided to let my sister move in with her to help take care of her. And of course my sister didn't like it a bit. She was miserable there. And I used to go down and visit her a lot when they'd let me in. But I don't know where my brother was at that time. But I remember one day my mom showed up with my brother and took my sister and my brother and I, and we hitchhiked back to Cincinnati. My mom said, "We're not hitchhiking, we're walking." But she was ahead of us, and when the cars would come by, I'd stick out my thumb, and finally she said, "If somebody wants to pick us up, they will, but we're not going to beg." And you know, we're talking 10, 15 miles we were going to walk, and we were just little kids. So anyway, I stuck out my thumb, and this car stopped and picked us up. Took us into town. I don't know whether she had money or not. I don't know how it worked out. All I know is we started going from place to place, trying to find a place to rent. And finally we found this apartment building that she rented an apartment in. And where she got the money, I have no idea, whether she had money when she picked us up or not. I did, of course, you know, as a kid, I didn't pay much attention to that kind of stuff. I was just glad to be someplace and settled again.